Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Favi and welcome to Arrows DIY. On my channel, I love creating home decor on a budget. Today's video is part of the $5 under $5 DIY challenge hosted monthly by Crafty Cove DIY Farm Charm Chic, and this month's host is Crafting with JC. So be sure to check out their channel links in my description box below, as well as the playlist link. Today I have 5 projects that are inspired by a high-end designer called MACKENZIE. They're super fun and perfect to add a pop of color to your decor. So let's get started. At MACKENZIE, they're selling this napkin holder for a whopping $68. Never would I ever, so let's make it for way less. I got this sign at Michael's as part of my grab box for $5. About 2 years ago, I got 12 of these signs for under $5. And they're 7x7 frame, and as you can see, I'm struggling to get this paper off, so I opted to just make the paper wet so that I'm able to scrape it off. With the help of an old rag and some water, I let it sit there for about 8 minutes just to soak up the water, soak up the paper, make it a little bit easier to remove. Then I used the bench scraper from Dollar Tree to just scrape it off, make it nice and flat and even. Once the surface was nice and clean, I came in and I painted it with this black paint by FAUX called Licorice. I painted the inside as well as the inner sides. Although it was black, I wanted everything to be the same tone of black. Now I want to add this antique gold color by FAUX. It's my favorite. But to help this color pop and to avoid wasting so much gold paint, I decided to paint the trim on this frame in this white paint. This white paint is also by FAUX in the color Wicker White. Once I gave it 2 coats, I also painted the outside of the frame. Once everything was good and painted, I went in and gave it 2 coats of that antique gold color once the white paint was dry. Once all the paint was dry, I went in with this napkin. It's my favorite napkin from MACKENZIE, courtesy of my sweet friend Jackie Burns at Jackie Burns Creations. I love you, girl. And I'm going to go ahead and just separate the plies. My handy trick for separating all the plies is just putting little tiny 2 pieces of painter's tape to the corner of the napkin, kind of sandwiching them together and then separating them, and it's just the easiest way to get the plies separated. You don't have to put so much blue tape on your actual napkin, just the tippy corner of your napkin, and make sure you get all the plies off. So once I removed 2 of the plies, we're left with this 1 ply, and I put it on the edge of this frame to measure the width of the frame. It measured about 1.5 squares, but just to be safe, I cut 2 squares with strips of this napkin. Now, I would love that gold trim that it has. This napkin is from MACKENZIE. I'll link it below if you are interested in getting some for yourself. I do need to order more. This is my last napkin. So now, as you can see, I added a nice layer of Mod Podge to the side of the frame, and I'm just going to start adhering it, lining it up to the edge, but leaving 1 square not attached. So I start attaching this napkin on the 2nd square of the napkin, just to give us some wiggle room to make the pattern look continuous all around the tray. So I add a thin layer of Mod Podge, and then I just gently line up the napkin to the edge of the frame, making sure that your fingers do not have any Mod Podge on it. You need clean fingers to tap this very softly, inch by inch, just to avoid any wrinkles. I chose to cut off the gold trim at the end of the napkin to help make this pattern look continuous all the way around. I prefer to wrap around any excess napkin to the next side of the frame. That way it looks continuous. And I also like to stack the napkins on the corners just so that it just has a seamless finish. Now, when I first applied the napkin, I didn't align it properly. I wasn't happy with the placement, so I did quickly remove that napkin. If you do remove your napkin, it kind of warps the shape of your napkin, so you want to be extra careful and add more Mod Podge to your frame if you happen to remove your napkin to reapply it. So I just continue wrapping this napkin around the side of the frame using a little tiny bit of Mod Podge and clean fingers. Once it's all adhered, I'm going to add a good layer of Mod Podge, nice and thick, all over the napkin, making sure to get the edges. It's very important to get the edges so that it adheres fully. When the Mod Podge is nice and dry, we're going to go in and sandpaper the edge. However, if you missed a spot with Mod Podge, it will rip your napkin. So it's very important to get your Mod Podge all the way to the edge of your frame. Now this is a very simple DIY, but since it's so simple, the details are very important. So take your time and get it all done. As you can see there, I have a little tiny bit of paint to touch up, but once I do, it's all done. Theirs was $68 and mine was $2. Let me know what you think about this one. I think it's so cute, definitely high end for $2. My napkins have a home, and I love how this pattern goes so well throughout the year. I can use it for the summertime or for the fall, and also makes a really good shadow box as well. So some options for you. For this next project, I found this sign at Neiman Marcus for $48, and it just says kitchen, but I thought it was super cute. I know where my kitchen is, but I thought we could definitely dupe this for a lot less. So I go ahead and I take this sign from Valentine's Day at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to flip it over and take off the hanger. Then I give it one good coat, two coats of this paint in the color Wicker White. I make sure to paint the edges as well, and I love painting in one direction just so the paint looks nice and neat. It gives it a really high-end look when your paint job is nice. So once the paint is nice and dry, I'm going in with the same napkin. This little napkin, I use this one little napkin for 3 DIYs. So I think you could get a whole pack of these napkins for about $7 to $8 on the website. And I think it's definitely worth it, well within our $5 budget. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut 1 square strips of this napkin, and I cut enough to go all around the perimeter of this sign. So as you can see, I'm just going to add a nice thin layer of Mod Podge and just decoupage it to the edge of this sign. Again, you want to try to avoid touching the Mod Podge. You want to keep your hands nice and clean so that the napkin does not stick to your fingers. If you have Mod Podge on your fingers, it could definitely tear your napkin. So just be sure to avoid getting Mod Podge on your fingers. Once the top and the bottom strips are placed, I start with the strips on the side. So now my handy assistant here is telling me I need to Mod Podge. Now to make the pattern continuous, I chose to cut the white square in the corner in half. That way it would look even on both sides and it was more aesthetically pleasing. I just think it's good when you try your best to keep the pattern continuous. So even though it might not be the same from this side to the right side of this frame, just the fact that both the top and the bottom of that strip have the same pattern make it more pleasing to the eye. So as you can see there, I just applied this napkin like so. You could also trim down the sign if you wanted it to be a perfect checkerboard pattern all the way around the border, but this is fine for me. It's not going to bother me at all. Once all the strips were applied, I went in and added a layer of Mod Podge to the whole sign. Now I'm going to use these poster stickers. Once the Mod Podge is nice and dry, I'm going to start with the center letter. We're writing the word kitchen, so the letter in the center of the word kitchen is the C. So we're just going to center the letter C first. Now we're going to use this square from the Dollar Tree just to help us align our letters and make them nice and straight. So I made all of these about 1 inch apart. However, the 2 letters on the ends were a little bit farther out. So I used my finger to space to keep the letters spaced properly on both ends, making sure that each letter had about 1 inch of spacing in between. This square is so handy. This ruler for $1.25 is so handy for applying your letters. Now, I love these stickers from Dollar Tree. I feel like if you don't have a cutting machine, a Cricut, or any of that sort, these are a great alternative. Once they're applied in position, you want to press them down firmly to make sure they're sticking, and then add a good layer of Mod Podge. You do want to keep your Mod Podge thin so that it doesn't dry noticeable. Mod Podge tries clear, but you could still see the lines in the Mod Podge. And that's it for this one. Theirs was $48 and ours was only $3. So that's a win in my book. It's hanging in my kitchen and I love it so much. Now, this next project is $78 for this candle. Who is paying $78 for a candle? I don't know, but they keep doing it, so someone must be buying it. I went to the Dollar Tree and I've got this candle. It's also a flickering candle, just like the one on Neiman Marcus. It might be a little smaller, but it's still a flickering candle. We're gonna go ahead. This one is super simple and quick. We're going to decoupage this napkin onto this candle. Now, I recommend keeping the wrapper on your candle until you're absolutely ready to do this DIY, just to avoid you getting any dust or any annoying particles on your actual candle that might interfere with your decoupage. We want this to be nice and flat. We want the napkin to fall flat on the candle. So a nice clean candle and a little bit of Mod Podge should do the trick. I start off by applying about 2 inches of Mod Podge to the side of the candle, and then I line up the napkin as vertically as I can. I did make sure to cut this napkin a little bit larger than the candle so that we do have excess hanging on both ends of the candle. And you want to make sure you want to keep your Mod Podge very thin. And we're going to work section by section, tapping every single space where the napkin touches the candle. Tapping the napkin with a clean finger is the easiest way to do this. This is very simple. However, to get a nice clean finish, you want to take your time and go section by section. You don't want to rush this if you want it to look high-end. So just take your time, and it's very simple to do. The texture of this candle is kind of waxy. Once we approach the end of the napkin, I did choose to cut the end of the napkin right before the next check. So I cut it right before the line on the side of the squares. That way it looks like a seamless finish when I overlap one end of the napkin to the start end of the napkin. And once our candles adhered, we're going to put a good thick layer of Mod Podge all the way around to seal our napkin, making sure to pay special attention to the edges of the candle. Once it was nice and dry, I go in with some sandpaper. I love using sandpaper because it's bendable, so we can definitely just bend this any shape we need to. I just fold it over on itself twice to make it a little bit more sturdy. And we're going to go ahead and just sandpaper. We're going to sand off the edges of this napkin, all around the edges. Once we have the napkin removed, we're going to go ahead and distress the edges lightly so that it matches our inspiration piece. Once the top of the napkin is fully sanded, we're going to go and do the same thing to the bottom of the candle just to give it a nice clean edge. And it's as easy as that. This candle is going to look so good for year-round decor. Their candle was $78 and mine was only $2. So let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. This next project is a small pedestal riser for $118. I don't understand these prices, but we're gonna make it for way less. Now, I got this napkin from my friend Brandi over at the DIY Struggle. I'll link her shop in the description box below if you want to grab your own napkin. Now it's not the exact same pattern as the one on the pedestal riser, but that's the beauty of DIY. You pick whichever napkin you want for your project. I love the watercolor effect in all these flowers, so I'm going to go ahead and use this napkin. I fussy cut it off camera, and I'm going to use this plate from the Dollar Tree. It's a smaller plate, and I clean both sides with some rubbing alcohol. This is going to be sure to take off any grime or any grease or anything that might interfere with our decoupage process. Once it's nice and clean, I go in and add a nice layer of Mod Podge. I use the matte finish. Now it does dry clear, however you can still see the direction of the Mod Podge when it dries. So I would recommend applying your Mod Podge in a circular motion around the outer rim of the plate, and that way when it dries it kind of follows the shape of the plate. So now I fussy cut the napkin, and I love keeping all the original plies on the napkin as I fussy cut. It's just easier in my opinion to fussy cut this way. So once you have it all fussy cut, then you want to remove your plies to just leave that one ply. When you have the one ply separated, you're gonna Mod Podge it face down with the right side of the napkin face down so that it's touching the bottom of the plate. This way our plate pedestal riser stays food safe, and we could see that beautiful pattern on the other side. So as you can see here, I just pick a variety of the pieces of the napkin. I try to pick different colors to add variety to the plate, and it kind of reminds me of the inspiration piece because it's so colorful. So I had to be very delicate with the stems. They're very thin pieces to fussy cut, so you just want to be very gentle and tap these delicate pieces of the napkin to the plate. I did keep some of the white negative spaces in the flower because they were kind of impossible to fussy cut, and since other pieces of the flower had white in them, I figured it would be okay to keep some white inside of the design of the more delicate flowers. I try to space them out so that most of the plate was covered, and just make it interesting to look at. Once all of the pieces of the flower are adhered, I went in and added a nice layer of Mod Podge, making sure that all the edges are nicely adhered. We're going to add one nice layer around the entire plate to seal in our napkin project. Now I'm going to take this glass candle holder from the Dollar Tree, as well as this 4-pack of plastic bowls from the Dollar Tree. I originally wanted to use glass bowls, the mini glass bowls, but I couldn't find them in time for this project, so I just used this plastic bowl instead. Cleaned all of these with rubbing alcohol to help have a nice clean surface for the adhesion. I used some E6000 to glue the bottom of the candle holder to the bottom of the plate, making a nice pedestal shape. Now I'm going to add some Mod Podge because I wanted to help the paint adhere. Once it's good and dry, I'm going to go in and add this base coat in the color Wicker White, and once the Mod Podge is clear, I painted the entire thing white. Originally I wanted to use the glass bowl, but I ended up using this one instead, and I do really like the ornate features of this bowl. Now I'm going to use some blue tape to tape off the top of the candle holder and make a nice straight division to the bottom of this pedestal, kind of connecting the top of the candle holder to the bottom bowl. So I use some tape to do that, and I'm going to tape off 3 sections, and the plan is to protect the white paint with the blue tape and then paint the exposed sections in this black color. I press the blue tape really firmly to the candle holder just so that no paint seeps through, and I go in and use this flat paintbrush to paint that section in black, and I give it 2 coats. So as you can see here, I just painted all the sections that are exposed in that black paint, and hopefully creating a checkerboard pattern. Now for the bottom of the bowl, I'm going to paint the bottom portion with the flat paintbrush. I'm going to use the corner of this flat paintbrush to help me make sharp edges on my divisions, and I skip a section and paint the bottom half. First I decided to remove the painter's tape, and as you can see, it's kind of a disaster. It ruins my paint job, but no big deal. It happens sometimes when we create. So I just had to go in with this flat paintbrush and kind of touch up the project, and although it did kind of mess up and it wasn't my original intention, it was still helpful to have those sharp lines as a guide for me when I was touching up the paint. Now I'm going to go in and paint the top portions of the spaces in between. So I'm going to use the same flat paintbrush, and I'm going to just finish off that checkerboard pattern on the top portion of that section. And I paint the rectangle first, and then I come back and fix the corners of the squares after. And you just want to make sure to have a good amount of paint on your paintbrush and just press your paintbrush to the corner to give that nice sharp edge. Next, I go and I touch up the white sections of the candle holder and any other spots that needed fixing. Then I paint the top of the candle holder in the black paint. The white paint mixed with the black paint, I left it because I kind of like the way it looks when it mixes together, and it kind of reminds me of an authentic Mackenzie Childs handmade decor piece. So I welcome any smudges, I welcome any imperfections. I feel like they just add character to the project. I did not paint the top of the candle holder so that I could add the E6000 and hot glue in different spots. Then I just centered the plate to the top of the candle holder and sanded off any excess napkin on the edges. And once it was all dry, this is what it looks like. And I'm so happy with how this project turned out. Their pedestal riser was $118 and ours was only $4. So that's definitely a win in my book. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. I absolutely love this piece. It's in my kitchen right now, and it just adds the perfect pop of color for spring and summer decor. Now for our last project, we're going to be making this large Persephone pot for $98. Now I thought I had a terracotta pot in my house. I have no idea where it is. It must be in my basement somewhere, but no, never fear, we're gonna make it work. So I got this color by Folk Art called Light Lavender, and I'm gonna paint the top rim of this pot. I taped it off using some blue tape, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paint the top of this, as well as the inner rim of the pot, because you never know what you're gonna see once you put the plant inside. I also taped off the bottom portion of the pot just to help with the lines and, you know, help us match our inspiration piece. Now to fake the terracotta pot look, we're going to use this terracotta paint by Folk Art in the color Pueblo. And I think this paint is so much fun. But I had a squirrel moment and I had to give the lavender one more coat of paint. Once I was done there, I used a massive foam applicator brush and just painted this terracotta paint all around the pot. And I'm amazed at the transformation that this paint gives. It is lightly sanded, so it is so therapeutic to paint this paint on anything. So it's so satisfying to use this paint. I'll link it in the description box below if you're interested in getting some. They have this terracotta paint in a whole bunch of colors, but doesn't it look like real terracotta? It's amazing. So anyways, we're gonna fake it till we make it, right? We're gonna fake the terracotta look with this paint. Now I decided I wanted to tape off the top of the top rim of this pot, and as you can see, it completely ripped up my paint. And I was over it at this point. So what I said was I abandoned the blue tape completely, and I'm just going to paint the terracotta paint first. Once that was nice and dry, I'm going to go in using these foam applicator brushes. I think they're an awesome way to make straight lines on your projects. So what I did was I put a good amount of paint on my foam applicator brush, and I just followed the edge of the pot. And this was the perfect way to just create a nice straight stripe all around the top rim of the pot. I should have did this from the beginning. So now I'm just having fun at the bottom of the pot, and I'm just going to use these two flat brushes, one brush in the black color and the next brush in the white color. The black color I'm using is a glossy finish black, which is an indoor and outdoor paint, and the white paint that I'm using is a glossy Folk Art paint called Brilliant White, and they're both indoor and outdoor paints. Now once I finished making that stripe pattern at the bottom, I went in with the same paintbrush, Now the 10 piece of these paintbrushes at TEMU is $1.78. So they're a good deal. They're better than any Amazon deal I've purchased in the past, and they're really good quality, so I vouch for them. I'm gonna go ahead and use this paintbrush and just make a lavender stripe all around the edge of this pot. Now I'm not looking for perfection. I think that if it looks handmade, it's just more charming and fun and whimsical. So that's the look I'm going for. If you want more of a perfect finish, you might want to use the blue tape with some spray paint. Now I'm going to use the back of the foam applicator brush and just dip it into that same black paint, and I'm going to make polka dots all around the top rim of this pot. And then I'm going to make another set of dots right underneath, in between the first set of dots that I made. Then once those 2 rows of dots are made, I'm going to make the third dot right in between the second row. And then for the bottom, I decided to just skip a dot. It was looking kind of busy, so for this last row at the bottom, I skipped a dot and just put a dot right in between the third row of dots. Now to seal my project, I'm using this Rust-Oleum clear spray paint, and this is just going to protect our paint job and hopefully make it weatherproof. Now I found this little bird in my stash. I got it during Christmas and I haven't used it in a really long time, so I'm going to paint him in this white paint, and I give him 2 coats. Now to hold him, I'm just using a stylus from my craft space, and I'm putting him inside of a ribbon spool to dry, suspended in the air. Now I'm going to use these flat paint brushes, and I'm just going to make a checkerboard pattern on the bird. I start off on the back of the bird and I work my way around the body, just making little dashes with the paintbrush to create the checkerboard pattern. I'm just making sure that we connect 2 of the corners together when we make the new dash for the checkerboard pattern. I don't focus too much on perfection because it kind of takes the fun out of it. So I think you should just take your time and focus on connecting 2 of the black squares together by 1 new square. And I'm just making dashes all the way up. Once the body is fully painted, then I start working on the head of the bird. And when you go towards the head of the bird, you kind of want to make more of a diamond shape as opposed to a square shape, just to continue the checkerboard pattern around the tricky shape of the head. And I did that by kind of dabbing my paintbrush in certain spots and just trying to continue the checkerboard pattern 1 line at a time. And I do that for the full bird. And I was happy how it turned out. I honestly didn't think it would turn out so good, but it was a lot of fun to do, definitely therapeutic, and a lot cheaper than therapy, I think. So once my little bird was done, this is what it looks like. And let me know if you give this a try. You could definitely send me a picture of your project on Instagram at arrowsdiy, or just send me an email at arrowsdiy@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you guys, and I would love to see the projects you're working on. I could definitely share them on my channel as well if you'd like. I love to see crafty people and their projects. All right, so once it's fully dry, I'm going to go in with my X-Acto knife and cut a little slit at the bottom of the foam bird. And then I'm just going to squish it I'm going to squish it on the edge of the pot. And that's that for this project. I do go in and give all the paint 1 more coat off camera and seal it once again. But here we go. This is what it's looking like. I got this plant, a faux plant, from a company called Forever Leaf. So I'll also leave their link in my description box if you want to get some faux florals. They're so realistic. So at Mackenzie Childs, they're selling theirs for $98, and ours was only $2. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun creating all of these colorful DIYs. Let me know if you'll give it a try. Let me know which one was your favorite. As always, friends, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss a new upload. I have a lot coming on my channel, so I don't want you to miss out. Special thank you to all these ladies for hosting such a fun collaboration, and thank you for watching. Take care, God bless. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye!